Hey, and welcome back to another episode. So we're going to do something a little bit different, a little take on an ancient leadership principle. So there's an ancient leadership secret that I want to share with you today. So if you feel like your life and your leadership style, you're losing authority, you're losing credibility, you're kind of struggling and you don't know why, and you're like, I'm doing what I think I should be doing. I'm doing all the right things. I'm using all the techniques, but nothing's really working out for you. And you can't figure out why. Well, today I want to introduce to you an ancient secret principle of leadership that a lot of us have forgotten about. And because we've forgotten about it, we've given up authority and accountability. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about responsibility is followed by authority. It's also followed by accountability. So let's get into it. So I want to share with you a story that goes back to the beginning of time. It goes back to the Garden of Eden, where God created man and then he gave him a purpose. He said, I want you to take care of the garden. I want you to take care of the earth. I want you to do this task. So he gave him the responsibility of tending to the garden. Tending to the Garden of Eden was his task. And then he realized, well, you need a helper, right? So what did he create? He created animals, but he gave him another responsibility. He said, I want you to name them. So the animals are going to come up to you and you're going to name them, and that's what they're going to be called. So in the very beginning, we have a clearly established principle of a task being given and being responsible for that task, and then authority to do those tasks. And with the animals, it wasn't just a one-time authority. It was, hey, when you're introduced to something new and a new animal or beast or bird or whatever comes up to you, you have the authority to name it. I'm giving you that responsibility, so you have that authority to name it. And then God said, you know what? We haven't found the right helper for you yet. So he made Adam go to sleep, took a rib out, and then Adam woke up. He found a new creature. And he said, oh, I'm going to call you woman, literally from man. You are flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone, and I will call you woman, right? Literally from me. But we got to back up a little bit because God put some boundaries in place that we may have overlooked. He said, you have responsibility and you can tend to the garden. You can eat anything you want freely except for one tree, and that's the tree of knowledge. God told Adam, you cannot eat from this tree. I'm holding you responsible for not eating from this tree. Adam was like, okay, got it. Then Eve came around, and it doesn't specifically say whether he told Eve or not, but Eve knew enough to know that she shouldn't eat from the tree. And then she was tempted by the serpent, and the serpent said, well, did God really say this? Did God really say that? Regardless of the conversation, she was tempted. She ate from the tree. And then she went to Adam and said, hey, Adam, I'm not dead. You can eat from it. You'll be okay. He ate from the tree. And then God went to go look for them in the garden. Now, I kind of envision this in my head. It may or may not have happened this way, but the vision I get is kind of like a dad playing hide and seek with their kids. Like the dad knows where your kids are, right? You know where they're hiding, you know what they're doing, and you're looking for them, and you're going, hey, where are you at? What's going on? He's like, oh, we're here. And he was like, well, why are you hiding? And he goes, well, we're naked and we're ashamed. And it's interesting because God said, well, who told you that? How did you come to this knowledge on your own? It didn't come from me. It had to have come from somewhere else. And then he admits from eating from the tree. And then he immediately blames somebody else. He didn't take accountability for his actions. He said, oh, it wasn't my fault. It was Eve. It was her. She's the one who ate from the tree. And then we look at the series of consequences that come from that. But if we look at the principle of responsibility followed by authority and accountability, if you're given responsibility for something and then you have the authority to do it, it is 100% followed by accountability. You are ultimately responsible for everything that falls in that realm of control that you have been given responsibility for. And that goes with everything in life. It's a very simple principle that we overlook because how many times do we see people today going, I delegated this responsibility to somebody else, or I delegated this task to somebody else. And that person then starts doing that task. Do they have the authority to do it? They have a limited authority because you delegated, because you have the authority. You were given that task. You were given that task to delegate. You delegated it. You get rid of a limited amount of the responsibility and a limited amount of authority to do it. But you did not give up the accountability to do it. Just much like in the Garden of Eden, right? The boundary was put in place. The accountability piece never fell off of Adam at all. It solely rested on him to make sure that boundary was in place, and he failed at that. Mistakes happen. We can look at that and today in CEOs, right? How many times do you see CEOs testifying before Congress or testifying before some board of, well, I didn't know what was going on in my company because of X, Y, and Z. I delegated these tasks to this suite or to the board or to this director or to that director. I delegated that to them. I didn't know what was going on. It's not my fault. It's their fault. They were responsible for it. But yes, they were responsible with a limited amount of authority that was given to them, but ultimate accountability still rests with the person that it was given to. So when you're hired by a company and you're saying, hey, I'm hiring you to do these roles and responsibilities, they're also saying, I am giving you the authority to do everything within this span of control within these left and right limits. That's why we have tasks, conditions, standards, roles, and responsibilities. This is your role. This is your responsibility. Somebody from a position of authority is giving that to somebody else. I have ultimate authority to give a lesser amount of authority to you so you can do those tasks. The ultimate accountability still doesn't fall anywhere else on the line. There's still accountability along each way of the line. It goes back to the statement, who could be trusted with little can be trusted with a lot. I'm giving you a limited amount of responsibility. And based on your limited amount of responsibility, you have a limited amount of authority to do that and a little bit of accountability that goes along with it as well, right? So if you're new to an organization or you're new to a company, you're given a little bit of responsibility to do and a little bit of accountability that goes along with it. You are accountable for those things and somebody should hold you accountable to it. Much like if you're a higher up, more senior in the company, you have a lot more responsibility, a lot more authority, which comes with a lot more accountability. And oftentimes we see people trying to delegate accountability. You can never delegate accountability. You can only delegate the responsibility to do it. I mean, I can think of tons of times that I have seen that people have delegated responsibilities down to a level where it was not appropriate, and they tried to give people an authority to do it, and it didn't work out well. So picture this. So picture you are in a job, you were hired, and you're like, okay, I'm hired to do these tasks. Great, I'm doing it. And then they hire more people, and they're like, we need to put somebody in charge of these people. Hey, you've been here longer. We're going to put you in charge of them. But that wasn't really your roles and responsibilities to begin with. You had those tasks that you had to do. Now, someone added an additional task to you, gave you more responsibility, but not the authority to do it. And people inherently on the team feel this tension because they're like, wait a second, we're all kind of the same. You're doing relatively the same job I'm doing, and you're doing relatively the same job that I'm doing. Why are you in charge? And if you're in charge and you're leading those folks, you're still going to be doing the things that you need to do. You're going to ask people to influence. You're going to ask people to do a lot of different things. And you could be great at getting the influence and the buy-in and getting the support of the team, but it doesn't mean that the accountability or the authority really rested with you. It's actually above you, and someone put it down at a level where it doesn't belong. So if you're in a position like that and you go, well, maybe that's why. It's funny because GS-12 is the first level of supervisory responsibility in a PD on the government civilian side. And there are tons of people in leadership roles well down below that who have supervisory conditions placed on them, but not in the PD. And then they go, wait a second, I was hired to do these things. How come it's this way? I don't understand why I'm having such a problem. Well, you're having a problem because the authority doesn't really reside with you. They gave you the responsibility without the authority, and then they want to hold you 100% accountable for it. See, we have our accountability and responsibility without the authority roles mixed up, and we kind of need to get those back in order. And I want to give you another story. True story, actually happened, and I was blown away when it actually kind of hit my desk and I had to deal with it. So I was in Germany and we had some soldiers that wanted to go off into town and go drink. And they were about 45 minutes away in a town called Nuremberg, Germany. And it's a pretty famous town, but there's a downtown part, there's a red light district, there's the normal bars and everything else that soldiers go to, whether they should or should not be there. It happens, people do it. So these soldiers decided, four of them, were going to get in a car and drive there. And they said, hey, we need one person to be the designated driver. So they all agreed that one person was going to be a designated driver because they didn't drink anyway. And he goes, hey, I'll just go with you. Have a great time. I'm not going to drink and I'll make sure that we get you home. So, right there, collectively, we all decided that one person had the responsibility with the sole task of getting somebody back to the original destination safely on time or whenever it was over. They all collectively agreed to give up their own authority and responsibility of getting themselves home because they were going to be inebriated and not be able to make clear decisions for themselves to one person to get them back home safely. Sounds reasonable. So they're all drinking. They meet up with two other soldiers who are also drunk, but didn't have a plan to get home. So then they all agree, hey, look, you shouldn't drive back drunk. That's not okay. We have a DD. Let's get you back on post safely. Sounds like a great plan, except for now there's six people in a 5-passenger van, and they all kind of don't sit. And you would think, well, maybe someone's going to sit in someone's lap. But then somebody goes, wait a second, we got to get on post. And if we're all not all having a seatbelt, then the gate guard's going to have a fit, and then we're going to get in trouble. Someone's going to ride in the trunk on the way back. We'll get you in the trunk. Then when we go through the gate, we'll get you back out. Sounds like a legitimate plan for a bunch of drunk soldiers and one sober soldier. Sounds like a good plan. Except for the sober soldier could not drive down the one-way streets correctly. He kept going down the streets the wrong way. And all the drunk soldiers in the car were like, hey, look, dude, you're going to get us arrested. You're going to get us a ticket for drunk driving. You need to stop driving, get out of the car. You're not driving anymore. And he goes, I'm the only one sober. Yes, I'm driving down the wrong way. He goes, well, I'm the only one sober. Somehow they convince him to pull over, which then they pull him out of the car, stick him in the trunk, and they drive back to post. And they thought it would be great to just pull over before they get to the gate, close enough by, get the guy in the trunk out, put him in the driver's seat. They go through, nobody would know that anybody was drinking and driving. Except for when you're drunk and you're driving, I could only assume 45 minutes, you forget that you have somebody in the trunk, especially if you're laughing and having a good time and you have the music going, and you could forget that someone's in the trunk. Then you drive to the gate and you realize, oh, I'm drunk. I shouldn't be driving. The DD's in the trunk. I can't just turn around now. So they commit. They go to the gate and they roll down the window. Gate guards immediately smells the alcohol, says, pull over. We're going to breathalyze you, get the MPs up here and everything else. So he goes, well, don't freak out, but there's a guy in the trunk. And of course, everybody freaks out and they get him out and they kind of figure out what's going on. And then I get a phone call. I'm like, okay, great. I will get to the bottom of this in the morning. It is like 3 a.m. I'll take care of it in a couple hours after PT. So then we dig into the whole story and kind of figure out what's going on. And the one guy who was sober, who said, look, I don't know what happened. I made a bad judgment error. I pulled over when I shouldn't have. And they all just threw me in the trunk and then I couldn't get out. So all the legal proceedings happened. Everybody except for the one DD got in trouble. And, a couple weeks later, he asked me, he goes, hey, sir, could you please endorse an OCS candidate packet for me? I have a master's degree and I think I would be a great leader. Now, he did this against the advice of everybody in his chain of command. And I looked at him and I said, I am sorry. I cannot in good conscience and faith endorse this packet for several reasons. But the first one I'm going to go by is you had the sole responsibility given up by the collective group of getting people back on post safely. You had the responsibility to do that. You had the authority to do that because the group abdicated their own self-authority to get back to you so you could get them back safely. And then when it came time to be held accountable for it, you let everybody else take the fall for it instead of saying, hey, I was the one responsible for getting them back. I should have been the one driving. Yes, they put me in the trunk, but I could have also fought to not get in the trunk and called somebody else and gotten some help. There's a lot of things that I failed to do. You refuse to take accountability for any of your actions and you let everybody else go down for it. Now, you might be looking at me and going, well, Tim, that's a little bit harsh, because there's five of them, one of him. He could have overpowered them. Either way, he was still responsible and the group collectively agreed. So if you follow the responsibility equals authority equals accountability model, you take accountability for that. I probably would have said, okay, we need to like revisit this in a couple months. You had a bad judgment of character. You had a bad issue. I don't really trust your judgment right now. Let's come back later. But instead, you abdicated the accountability piece. And we do that all the time today. You see it everywhere when it comes to being held accountable. You see it in schools. Kids pick on other kids, and then we talk about it. We bring things up. People recognize something happened. It's okay. Kids will be kids. It'll be all right. Just let it happen. It's okay. And then we see it in the workplace. Somebody shows up late. Hey, you're supposed to be here on time. How come you're late? Don't worry about it. It's not, what did it really affect? It's okay. It's not that big of a deal. Except for it affects your character of who you are as a person. And can I trust you? Goes back to who can be trusted with a little can be trusted with a lot. If you have a little bit of responsibility, I need you to do those things. I should hold you accountable for it. We abdicate accountability in our culture far too much. And then when we go back to a place of where we want to enforce accountability, we've given up our own authority and credibility to even do it because we haven't done it all along the way. So, how can we move forward and ensure that we have this principle in place to make sure that we're giving them the responsibility, giving them the authority to do what they need to do, and then also holding them accountable and everyone in the line in that chain of what they're responsible and accountable for to be responsible and accountable? Well, the first thing is to establish the right responsibilities at the right level. Do we even have that codified? Do we even have it at the right place? Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we've delegated a delegated task far too down to a level where we shouldn't have. And the authority will never, ever catch up to it because it wasn't somebody else's to delegate down. They just did it anyway. How often do you see somebody sitting back, not pulling their weight? Everybody else is doing what they should be doing. Everyone's looking at that guy like, well, what are they really doing? That person probably delegated all their tasks to other people. So they're doing fractions of that person's job plus their job. And they feel it. The responsibility task ratio is off. So first thing we need to do is fix the responsibility chain. Who's responsible for what? And did we give them the proper authority to do that? And then hold them accountable. This goes in a positive way and in a negative way. If things are going well, hey, good job. Things are going well. I appreciate what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. Things are going amazing. Or if things aren't going well, hey, this isn't going well. We need to fix this. We need to get after this. Hey, I need you to fix this one problem on your team because it's hurting everybody else. We need to fix that. And it goes both ways. If you're on the team and somebody above you is accountable for something, it is okay to respectfully tell them you're not upholding your end of the bargain. And all too often, we just sit there and we eat feces for no reason other than we think we have to, but you don't, because the simple principle is always in place. Responsibility plus authority equals accountability. And if you get that model all mixed up, you're going to be finding yourself working in an environment where you're going to be overworked. You're not going to be respected because you don't have the proper authority at the proper level to even do what you're doing. And everybody inherently knows it. So that's my take on this accountability stream. We need to get more accountable leaders in the workforce, and we need to have other people hold everybody else accountable. Just imagine what the workplace would be if everybody held their end of the bargain and said, I'm going to show up, do my best work today on the things I'm responsible for, and be accountable for my own actions. It would be an amazing place. All too often, we get excuse after excuse after excuse of why we can't do something. or why something didn't happen, or why something else is somebody else's fault and never your own. Next time somebody talks to you about something, I want you to just do this one simple thing. First, ask yourself, are the next words out of my mouth, yes, this is my responsibility and it did or did not go the way it's supposed to? Or is it going to be, here's a reason why? And anytime you have to say, here's a reason why, you're really saying, here's the excuses that you shouldn't hold me account. I think it's that simple. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Hey, and for everyone watching this, I really appreciate you stopping by. Thank you for tuning in. If you got some value out of this, please like, subscribe, hit all the bells and whistles and all the icons. So that way you know when we release another episode. And if you really liked it, if you could comment and share with one or two other people that you think might like this episode so we can help spread the show around. Thanks for stopping by. I'm Tim Staten, stating the obvious.